Hi everyone, my name is Fab and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to make a quick wrap up for the month of February. In February I read three graphic novels and one audiobook, and I have one DNF book. So the first one that I read is The Cabin at the End of the World. I already made a review about that, you can watch that one if you want. Then I read Dolores Claiborne by Stephen King. I will make a review of this book soon, and this one basically talks about a woman called Dolores Claiborne that is living an abusive relationship with her husband, and she feels helpless in this relationship. She doesn't know how to deal with this situation, and she's working for this wealthy woman that pays her to clean up her house. She's basically a maid in her house, and one day this woman gave her an advice that accidents happens sometimes to husbands, and that's why Dolores take advantage of a big event that is going to happen. Is a total eclipse, and you pretty much can imagine what will happen. The last one that I read is a book by William Hope Hodgson, and is The House on the Borderland, and I will talk about this book at the end of the video. The three graphic novels that I read are The Yattering and Jack, that I already made a review of, with The Possessed, that is the other graphic novel that I talked about. The first one is about a demon that has to drive insane a man to bring him with him to hell. And the other one, The Possessed, is about a Jewish family that is trying to escape from the Nazis, and they receive a D-book box by a rabbi, and the demon contained in this D-book box possessed the grandpa of this family, and is going to have some kind of revenge on Nazis. The other graphic novel that I almost forgot to talk about is Halloween by Phil Natman. It's in three parts that were published between November 2000 and November 2001. And in this graphic novel we see entirely the story of Michael Myers from when he was a child, when he was 6 years old, and he murdered his sister Judith, and when he was confined into a mental institution where he meets Dr. Loomis and Dr. Carpenter, that I think is an homage to the director of the movie Halloween. When he is in this juvenile mental hospital, there are other murders, and he's always quiet, he never says a word, so they think there is something weird about him, something that is hiding from them. Dr. Loomis is trying a lot to help him, but eventually also his personal life is affected by Michael Myers, and eventually he started hating him as well. At the end, there is a big twist in the third part of this graphic novel. The drawings, they differ a lot from the first to the third. The first one is nice, the second one is meh, and the third one I think is really good. The drawings, I really enjoyed the last one. And also the story is interesting because we see how some survivors from Michael Myers massacre night are now grown up, and they want to tell the story of this man and of this child, because he was a child when he started committing these crimes, and they go back into their hometown where they want to solve the mystery about Michael Myers, and solve the mystery especially about Laurie Strode that has disappeared, and they don't know what has happened to her. They think that she might be dead, and this is really interesting. There is a huge twist at the end, and that's really good in my opinion. The audiobook that I read instead is another point horror book. I said the last time that I wanted to give another shot to the point horror series, and this time I read The Dead Girlfriend by Aryl Stein, and I found this story more interesting. It talks about a girl called Annie, and she's moving in this new town. All these stories in this point horror series have this kind of trope. The main character that moves into another town and something happens there. I think it is something that is used a lot in this series. And anyway, this talks about a girl called Annie that moved into this new town, and she met this guy called Jonathan that is a bit mysterious, and soon enough she learns that his girlfriend died in a terrible accident, and she starts suspecting that Jonathan might be the murder of this girl. So that's how the story goes on, and I think it's better than the other point horror that I read because it's more, it has a grip on reality more than the others, even if there is this slight supernatural thing about this, the possibility of this dead girlfriend coming back to life just to threaten Annie to leave Jonathan alone. So it's a bit interesting, it's more interesting, but I don't know, I don't feel like this point horror series is something for me. It doesn't, it's not something that I really enjoy like like other books. So I don't know, maybe I'll give another shot with other books by Aryl Stein in this point horror series, but I'm not positive. I don't know. Aryl Stein is a well-known author and is very famous for the Goosebumps series, and I know that a lot of people love him. I haven't read that much about him, but I'll give it another shot with another story because there are a lot that he wrote a lot of stories. So I will give another shot with another story, and I'll see. Maybe I'll find that more likable, more for me. I don't know. Then I DNF one book that is this one is On the Road by Jack Carrock. This is in Italian. I have the Italian copy. I was more than halfway through the book. I was kind of forcing myself to read this book, but I don't know. I don't enjoy it. I think this book is very repetitive and it's not very engaging. Like it's just a recollection of places that that Sal, the main character, has visited and is going through while he's traveling all around the United States. But I don't know. I don't find the story really interesting per se. Maybe I can't say that much about this style because obviously in the translation maybe the style lose something, but I don't think it's the style that didn't engage me in the story. I think it was the story itself that I didn't find really interesting. This is a book that everyone loves. I don't find it interesting. I don't know. I think it was a bit repetitive. Maybe for someone that wants to live a life traveling, or that I want to do as well, but not like that. I don't know, like traveling on the road. I don't know. I thought it was more interesting, the story. I thought there would be much interesting stuff, more cultural stuff, but it's just the same thing over and over. They move to another places, having a relationship with some women that he met there, and then they split up, and he goes in another town, starts another relationship. I don't know. I didn't find it really interesting. A lot of people say that this is not the finished version of this book. I don't know, but it could be, given it's like that. But even if people loves it, I don't know. I didn't really enjoy it, and I didn't DNF this book because I'm not interested in reading more about it. Then last, I want to talk about the book by William Hope Hodgson. It's The House on the Borderland. This book is was published at the beginning of the 20th century. I think it's 1908, if I'm not wrong. And this book talks about starts with an introduction by the same author that tells us that the manuscript that he's going to talk about has been found by two men that were going on a fishing vacation. And while they were in this village in Ireland, where no one talks English, they talk another dialect or something like that they can't really understand. While they're there and they're going fishing, they follow the river and they end up in this abyss that leads to this house that is in ruins. There is nothing left about it. And as they go into these ruins, they find this manuscript. They found it open and the pages are ruined, the one that are on top, but they can read the rest of the manuscript and they can tell the story how it's described by the man that is the main character of this manuscript. So this manuscript was written by an old man that everyone thinks is crazy, because the thing that he talks about in this book are the thing that probably drove him insane. And at the beginning is a really compelling, interesting story. It's an old-fashioned horror that reminds me of the kind of things that I used to read when I was a teenager and when I started reading horror, like Ambrose Bierce or Arthur Conan Doyle, or other things mysterious like Algernon Blackwood or things like this. But at the same time, like, this book is very interesting in the first part. It's very action-packed, and we see in this first part the most interesting part of this story. There are pig-like creatures that are half pig, half man. They are trying to attack the people inside this mansion, and this old man is trying to barricade himself and trying to defend himself and his sister from the attack of these creatures. But we don't really know if these creatures are real or not, or if they're in his imagination, because his sister seems concerned about him, and maybe she thinks that he's mad as well. We will never know about that. The first part is really interesting. The second part, no. There is too much description about universe and stars and spheres and other dimension and the collapse of the solar system and things like this, that if it was like condensed and was like shorter, maybe it would have been interesting, because we are talking here about a story that involves also some kind of science fiction element into the story, because we are talking about other dimension, like this house is like a portal to another dimension or to other dimensions, and that's where these creatures came from. These other dimensions are like lived by creatures that are a mix like between man and animals, like the Egyptian gods, for example, that are half man and half animal. And it seems like when this man traveled into this new dimension, he brought back this kind of creatures. But this story wanders too much into this description that are very long, and I found it boring at a certain point, because I wasn't really interested in reading it at a certain point. Like the second part, I was really disappointed, because the first part is really, really good, and the second part, it was meh. And the most interesting part of this book, the pig-like creature, were not present anymore in the second part. There is a slight mention in the last part of this book, and are the last pages of this book that becomes interesting again, but it's just the very last pages. So I don't know. It's a classic, and if you want to read something that is like old-fashioned horror and is mixed with some science fiction, dimensional adventure, you probably will like this one. And I did for the most part of it, but the second part wanders too much into this description of universe and space, and it didn't make much sense in my opinion, so I didn't really enjoy it. But this is all I can tell you about all the books that I read in February. And soon I will make the review about Dolores Claiborne, because I want to make that one with the other book that I'm reading, because I'm reading also Gerald's Game that is connected with this book. So I want to make a review of these two books together to see the comparison between these two of them, and you will see them very soon, as I finish Gerald's Game. I'm not halfway, I'm a third through the story, so I will let you know as soon as I have it. But if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, and I will see you into the next one. Bye.